evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our briefing session for Duncanville City Council, December the 17th, and we'll start this at 6:01 according to the clock. So we're real good with that. And turning it over to Mr. Hugman on the consent, on the action item. The item for
the consent item.
Yeah, consent and the, well, yeah, both. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This evening on the consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes for the December 3rd special meeting and the December 3rd regular meeting.
What do we do about that? But nobody else knows.
We had a change on the minutes to, it was section, hold on. It was briefing during the board and commissions. I changed Mayor Gordon does believe that it should be encouraged, the opportunity to volunteer their time due to not being a registered voter was changed.
Okay, that particular sentence was changed.
Yes.
Just as it was given to you is not correct.
Yes.
That item has been changed. Okay.
So then, with Mr. City Attorney, then when they make a motion as amended, just note the minutes as amended.
Okay.
Item 4B is a resolution authorizing purchase of fuel products from Martin Eagle Oil Company. This is for fuel for city vehicles. We purchase regular unleaded gasoline and ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel. This is through a contract with Martin Eagle Oil through a Tarrant County cooperative agreement. This is the second renewal of that contract. It is through April 6th of 2020. We estimate expenditures of $195,000 in fuel. There is no change from last year's contract price. The pricing is based on the Oil Price Information Service, or OPIS, and then there is a discount or a markup applied to the price of gas or diesel by OPIS. So it will fluctuate, but again, we're paying a markup or a discount based on what the market price is.
So that discount or that markup hasn't changed.
Correct. That is still the same.
But that's critical. I've got some experience in spot market fuel purchasing, and that's really what it's called. It's called spot market. So whatever the market is at that particular time of day that we go, it's like buying stock. Whatever it is, that's what you buy at. But the wonderful thing about this change is that the markup has not changed. So we're buying fuel at the same markup, but the base price is volatile. That we can't control.
Correct. Very well explained, Mayor. Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll make sure that you brief us on it next time. Those are all of the items on the consent agenda.
Okay. And on the, let's see, the items for individual consideration. This is the third step in the process that we all knew was coming. And if it's acceptable to y'all, I believe that it may be good for us to just move this to consent agenda as well, if y'all are agreeable to that.
Agreeable.
I've read through the changes are really good, and it takes us exactly where we want to be, even to the yard pickup and so on and so forth. So if y'all are agreeable, when it comes time to do that, when we get out into council, I will say, it needs to be a motion. One of you needs to make a motion as we move.
I think we do that now. We can do that now. That's not a motion.
All you need to do is announce that as a result of the work session, you've moved agenda item 5 to the consent agenda and have the city secretary read it, and then someone can make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
But there still needs to be a motion out there.
We got to move to approve all the consent
Yeah.
agenda items, yes.
Okay.
But not separate, for not the 5A though. So it's already included in the consent.
Yeah, all you need to do is just say, at work
Did we-
session, we agreed to move 5A to the consent agenda, and you'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
As amended. Got it. Okay. All right, so that takes us to our briefing session and briefing item. And we have a briefing by Chastity Benson on the 2020 census.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just here to give you a brief update on some of the efforts that have been underway regarding this 2020 census, as
We
well.
have some people here.
Yes, we do, from our Complete Count Committee. And I was actually, if our members of the Complete Count Committee that are present, if you all would stand for a moment so council can see kind of who they might want to reach out to here shortly. Go ahead and stand up. So this is the group, a portion of the group. We actually have, I think, 19 total signed up currently for the Complete Count Committee. Thank you all. You can have a seat. That have been working towards the 2020 census efforts. So again, council did approve resolutions in support of the 2020 census and formation of the Complete Count Committee, recognizing the importance of the census and the need for us to get the word out in Duncanville to make sure that everyone is counted. We provided some information for you all. So when the representative from the Census Bureau came and gave a presentation, she shared with you the response outreach area mapper, which is ROAM system, GIS system that you can go on. You can type in Duncanville, Texas, and it will pull up the census tracts that are in the city and pull up different information related to the different census tracts. What we've done is we have kind of added the council districts to the census tract maps to give you an idea about what census tracts fall within the different council districts that you represent. We have 8 census tracts in Duncanville, and most of the council districts incorporate multiple census tracts. So just the way that the boundaries align with the council districts, they encompass portions of multiple census tracts. And some of the census tracts even extend outside of the city limits. But the reason we included this information is to highlight some things that we think will be helpful for the Complete Count Committee, as well as the city and as well as the council, to be strategic in our outreach for the 2020 census. So in this information, what the census does is they create what's called a low response score, which is basically the metric that the Census Bureau uses for a geographic area according to their propensity to self-respond in surveys and censuses. So the higher the low response score, the more difficult that area is to count. We have 8 census tracts, and 5 of them are considered hard to count populations by the census.
Is the threshold 25%?
Yes, sir. 25. Anything above 25 is considered a low response score. So we do have 5 census tracts. They fall within the various council districts, District 5, District 4, 3. Really, all districts pretty much have at least a portion of census tracts that are considered low response scores. And so what this means is that there may be certain strategies that we have in those areas to encourage people to self-respond. For instance, in census tract 16502, which is the first column census tract, which actually corresponds. That census tract is completely in District 5. It doesn't extend into any other council district. That has a Hispanic population of 46%. So if that's a low response area, one of our strategies might be to make sure that we provide information in Spanish to that community. We have outreach to the local churches and trusted voices in the community. So this information is really helpful for us to plan on how we might strategize outreach. And then also it's important for you all to recognize that how you might help within your particular council districts. And so we wanted to provide that information to you. There's a huge data set. We extracted some of the information, but in Rome, on the website, there's a huge data set of a lot of information that you can pull. So with that, we thought that we would highlight some opportunities for the City Council to get involved with the census. We know that there are different roles for everyone, and what the census calls community partners would be basically what the council would serve as. And so we provided a toolkit that the census put together for local and state officials, and it has a lot of different ideas about how you might participate. So the biggest thing is just informing yourself, getting more information. The toolkit has great information, as well as the census website gives you a lot of details. You don't have to be a census expert. You don't have to, apply to work for the Census Bureau. But it's helpful to have some basic census knowledge, because when you're talking about it, sometimes people might have some basic questions. So you can say things like, this is the first year that you'll be able to respond online. All of your information is confidential and will not be shared. There are only 10 questions. There are certain questions that won't be asked, like citizenship. Those kinds of things are kind of questions that are out there, and really to arm yourself with information so that you can actually dispel misinformation that's kind of being put out there. Getting involved, we'd ask that any opportunity that you have to share information is always welcomed. If you have the opportunity to display any printed material, if you all are hosting an event, maybe have some, some census flyers on the table there at the event. The Census Bureau is always more than welcome to come and speak to various audiences. We've had them come to speak a few times here to the council. They've also provided training for our Complete Count Committee. And they have also partnered. We had a session with the ISD, the Family Engagement Coordinators, and the Census Bureau representatives came out to speak to that. So there's always opportunities for that as well. And then, of course, encouraging constituents in your districts to work for the Census Bureau. The census has jobs. And we have an office here in Duncanville on Camp Wisdom. So it's a great opportunity for employment, and they can apply actually on that 2020census.gov/jobs is the website where they can apply. Spreading the word, announcing census events and the importance of the census. Of course, we know that the census is used for federal funding and also congressional seats, districting, and all of that. It's also used for council districting. So, it has a direct line to our local elections as well. Sharing articles and co-branded products on social media, and encouraging people to join the CCC efforts. We do have a group that has assembled, and they've been trained by the Census Bureau, but there's always the opportunity for more people to connect to the Complete Count Committee as we ramp up efforts in 2020. So right now, kind of what we've been doing is kind of getting the word out as much as we can, but 2020 is really when the hard push happens. So January, February, March, it's, the mad push for engagement and outreach. And so there'll be a lot more opportunities to do that. And so we would like as many people as possible to connect to the effort so we can spread the word in Duncanville of the importance. And again, including relevant census information on your websites and your news releases. If you ever run into a question that you're unable to answer, by no means am I a census expert. We definitely would direct you to the partnership specialist that's been assigned to this area. We actually had someone else before, and we have a new person now, Rita Williams. And then, of course, you can always direct them to the website for additional information. Just to give you an update on some of the things that the Complete Count Committee has been up to since its formation. So the group has met, they've been trained again by the Census Bureau, and the training really consisted of providing them information so that they would feel comfortable to answer some basic questions as they're out promoting the census. And so that was really the point of the training. And then they've also met to start to engage and talk about things that will be coming up here in 2020. They've had a table at National Night Out. They participated at the DISD Panther Expo. We had an event with the Tri-Cities NAACP. They asked each complete count committee chair from all of the cities of DeSoto, Cedar Hill, and Duncanville. And they were present at the Tri-Cities NAACP meeting, as well as the Census Bureau provided a presentation to that group as well. We provided handouts that went into all of the bags of the Operation Clean Duncanville. And then they participated in the Christmas parade. I don't know if y'all saw the, the census group in the Christmas parade, but that was, again, just another opportunity to be visible and just keep the census on people's mind. And so that's really the goal. Coming up, we're looking to set the activity calendar and assign volunteers as we roll out outreach for 2020. The possibility of a lunch and learn at the senior center. One of the things that there's some large groups that sometimes have misinformation or could actually be taken advantage of as it relates to census, and that is our older population, because there's sometimes people take advantage of the fact that they may have someone coming to the door and they think it's, it's the census, and they're, have to open the door for them and things like that. So there's a lot of information that we could provide to our seniors to assist them with understanding the importance of the census and actually what to be on the lookout for. And then our upcoming meeting is January 16th. It'll be held at the library at 6 o'clock. So if you have anyone who's interested, we have our chair, Madeline Kelly-Schwach, who is here, as well as the other members of the committee that are present tonight. Just to highlight some of the city outreach efforts. So we've kind of targeted the Count Me and the Count Me Too as the census themes for Duncanville. The Count Me Too is more of a campaign geared towards our younger population. So the census, I believe it was, at the last census they said 5 million children under the ages of 5 were not counted in the last census. And that is huge because them not being counted impacted the funding that goes to schools for different programs and things of that nature. And if you go back and look at some of that census data, we have some census tracts with a high population of children living in poverty, and they rely on that funding for various programs. So it's going to be really important that we really target our younger, people, making sure that they count all of their children. So what the city's been doing, we've had weekly news updates and social media posts. Again, just continuing to remind people that the census is coming. We had the meeting with the DISD Family Engagement Coordinators. We look for opportunities to partner with the ISD more in 2020. Athena and I spoke at Central Elementary for Career Day, and we saw that as an opportunity to talk about the census. So we had an activity page with them and had them all chant, count me and count me too, and they were all into it. So I'm hoping to make sure that they provide that information onto their parents to encourage them to complete the census. We will feature an article in the upcoming Champion newsletter. We'll be launching a poster contest in 2020 for students related to the census. We will also be having some displays at City Hall, the Senior Center, and the library. The library is a great resource. We are looking forward to working with them to provide presentations during their ESL and English classes and Spanish story time at the library. Those are existing programs that we already have. It's just a matter of being able to plug in additional information to provide to those who participate in those programs. And again, we've got some major events that we are trying to work toward. Most notably, the big event is like a push on Census Day. And so we're going to be trying to plan for that. One big thing to note is that council did vote to approve $5,000 towards the Dallas County Complete Count initiative. And I did speak with the Judge Clay Jenkins' office. That actually, the contract should be going to the commissioners, for the commissioners' vote on January 7th. So they anticipate work starting with that vendor very shortly after. So that's going to be another opportunity for us to increase our outreach efforts. So again, there's some information on the website as well as in the toolkit. We just want to make sure that we're just continuing to remind people of the importance of the census and that how important it is for everyone to self-respond. And I'm available for questions if you all have any.
A couple of comments.
Yes, sir.
Thinking about ESL, I noticed on the First Baptist Church marquee that they're having ESL classes. If there's any way we can get, well, I'm acquainted with Pastor Miguel Lopez there, but others, if we could get some materials into their ESL classes, because I think that's probably a huge opportunity for us. And has there been any discussions with our library about using our computers to allow people to
Yes.
go online?
There has, and we're actually looking to host some events called Come to the Library Saturdays and like designate areas for people to complete the census. They can, the census cards, I believe, will start going out in February or March with the code where people can start to self-respond online. They also have the option to complete the paper or over the phone. Those are the options, and you can exhaust all of those options before they come knocking on the door.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, if I remember the process, nobody knocks on your door unless the other three have not been done.
Correct.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so there's even more opportunity to self-respond now with the online option and over the phone option.
Do you remember the dollar amounts that Commissioner Jenkins was quoting in terms of what's at risk?
I don't recall, Madeline might recall that.
Do you recall the
It's
numbers, Madeline?
It's $675 billion every year for 10 years that gets distributed by the federal government to the states. And it's depending on those numbers as to like how much we get. Our state government then decides who gets what.
And I've heard from a per person that's $1,100, like $1,500 a person. That's not.
I heard, I was thinking that he mentioned that the county has at risk about $40 million.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The county has at risk of over $40 million based on his inputs
Okay.
from that
I don't-
675. So it's a lot of money.
Yes.
I mean, it's huge. And we're talking about not even counting kids under 5. We've got to count every single body to really make this a real push. I'm beginning to understand how important this thing is from a monetary aspect, from us being a governing body for our city. So we really need to get behind it, do everything we possibly can. So thanks, Chassis. This is great. And seeing the census truck out there in the parade, that was good. That was good. That was good. Yeah, Joe.
I got one thing. I know the Duncanville Education Foundation is hosting a 5K on February 29th, and I'm sure they'll let you set up out there if you want to distribute information or whatever you think you can do.
Can you repeat that date, Joe?
February 29th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, and I got coffee with the mayor tomorrow. You
Yeah,
got
I saw
you
that.
got
I
anything?
think Athena's gonna attend that conference.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So yes, any opportunities that you all are aware of, just let us know. And one of the things, the big things that we'll be doing in 2020 is making sure that you all have access to the information that you can share with your congregations, your different organizations that you're members of, things like that, that always is helpful.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, our agenda for our briefing session is concluded. So relax and please get your seats out there and like 3 or 4 minutes before 7. Call time at 6:25. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The time is 7 o'clock, depending on which clock you want to look at. And we are convening our regular city council meeting for December the 17th, 2019. Make note that we do have a quorum present. We do have 2 council members absent. That is acceptable and understandable. We were advised ahead of time that they were not going to be here. So, the individual we have called on for our invocation is not present, so I'm going to do it, if that's all right.
Please do, sir.
Okay, so if y'all please rise. Heavenly Father, you're a great and a mighty and an awesome God, and we give you praise and glory and honor for all that you do. And Father, we ask that you would be present with us this evening as we conduct the city's business. Lord, give us wisdom, knowledge, discernment, and understanding in all that we do. Father, we thank you for everyone that serves this city in their hearts and their minds and their spirits to give their very, very best for all that we do for our city, for making us better at everything that we do for today and in the future. Give us your blessing and anointing and help us to understand, Father, all that there is for us to do. And for this season, the reason for the season is Jesus Christ. And we thank you, Lord, for this season, for your birth that we have, and we celebrate it, and we give you the praise and glory and honor tonight. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Please join me in a pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Please be seated. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. I'd like to recognize and thank those individuals for their work on the 2020 Census Complete Count Committee. We have some individuals present. If you would please stand so we can recognize you. And these 4 individuals are 4 of 19, as I understand, that we have a complete count committee, and it's essential. And we thank you very much for your service and for what we look forward to when it really becomes hot in February and March and April of the coming year. So thank you very, very much on behalf of the entire City Council and our staff. Thank you for your service on our complete count committee for our census. I'd also like to recognize all the city staff and every echelon of our city for putting on a great parade for our Christmas parade and the Christmas tree lighting, from Parks and Rec and from Public Works, the police department, the fire department, the executive staff. I don't know who I'm forgetting, but everybody did such a wonderful job, and I was in touch with so many people from our staff that were out there late at night putting this together, and then the cleanup afterwards. You know, that's another piece of it. But for all of our public servants, our first responders that were present and available, everybody just put out so much, and I received so many comments from our citizens that it was a great night. And from what we can tell, I guess it was the largest attendance we've ever had. It was the biggest parade we've ever had. And one couple came up to me and they said, you know, are you the mayor? I said, yeah, for the moment I am. And they said, I just want to tell you, this is them talking, that they said they were thinking of leaving Duncanville and moving out of the city. But they came to the July 4th celebration that we had, and they came to our Christmas parade, and they said, we've changed our minds. We just love what this city does for us in terms of enjoyment and entertainment. And they said, we're not leaving. We like it here in Duncanville. And that just really touches my heart and my spirit to say that what we do in those particular things and serving our city and putting on those kinds of events really, really impact our citizenry in terms of what they like to see doing. And I think it ties in, it's a segue into the conversation we had at our last city council meeting about an event, you know, looking for events. And, you know, even Councilmember Anderson's comments about it's not just once a year, it's what we can do on a cyclical basis. You know, can we do it every once a quarter, once a month? How do we do that? And that's, I think, what we're pursuing as well in terms of the decisions that were made at our last city council meeting. So it was just a great event, and it was so heartwarming. And I know there's nobody here from the Duncanville Independent School District, but the 8 choirs, those kids just blew it out of the park. They hit a home run. And Miss O'Beer, that is in charge of doing all that, she's just a fantastic lady. She puts her heart into that and organizing all those choirs and the directors. I just want to go on record publicly and to thank them, even though there's nobody here from the school district. So that's my mayor's report. Mr. Cooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to go on record to tell the entire city of Duncanville Merry Christmas. I know we will not be meeting before Christmas, so I want to extend to everyone a very Merry Christmas. And then I want to use the slogan that the 2020 census is using, and it says, "Count me too." And so I want to encourage everyone to engage in the census information that we've heard earlier during briefing. Then next month, I said we were not going to have the Lunch and Learn in December and January, but I will have one in January to kind of start off as well, because I want to make sure we start off well with the Count Me Too as well. It's part of our district. So Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year if we don't meet then. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. McBurnett.
I would like to echo what Mark said. Merry Christmas to all our citizens and stuff, and also that our Duncanville Panthers will be playing in the state championship game at AT&T this weekend. Please support your Panthers. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Barrett Cruz.
Yes, sir, thank you. I just want to remind everybody, as far as recurrent events, the Duncanville Education is hosting the Heart of Duncanville 5K Run, which will be February 29th from 8 to 11. So if you can come out and support, we would certainly appreciate that. And Merry Christmas to you as well.
Okay. That concludes council members' reports, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to note that with the holidays next week and the week after, the city offices will be closed on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, December 24th and 25th, and on New Year's Day, January 1st. There will not be any trash or recycling pickup on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. Your trash and recycling will be picked up on the next regularly scheduled date for both of those weeks. Also would like to note that this past year, we put out our first annual report, or the popular annual financial report is another term for it. And this annual report shows all of the things that we're doing in the city and our financial situation, our budget, and where those funds go. And we're very happy to note that we won an award for that this year. This was our first ever annual report, and we did win an award from the Government Finance Officers Association, so we're very proud of that. And special thanks and kudos to our Public Information Officer, April Riling, who put a lot of that work into that report. So we're very proud of that. It is online, and we have copies available as well for anybody who would like to get one. Thank you.
Just to amend what Mr. Ugman has said, I have a very close friend who is a CPA and has her doctorate in accounting, and she was doing some research on municipal annual reports and said that they were dismal. And I said, take a look at ours. And she did, and she came back to me and she says, it's wonderful. So when you get that kind of an accolade from an individual with those credentials and her experience, I go along with thanking April and the staff for putting that together. Summerlin doesn't have anything to do with it. So thank you very much. I mean, really, to know that when someone like that says that you've done a great job and to get an award for our annual financial report, it really means a lot.
Yeah. Good answer. If I could also add, Mayor, and I'm sorry, I did want to also acknowledge, yes, the Finance Department and our Finance Director, Richard Summerlin, were also very instrumental in that. And along with that, we also won, again, the Distinguished Award for our Certified Annual Financial Report from the same organization. And that's, I think, like 25 plus years in a row now that we've won that award. So again, we appreciate getting that award, and what it shows as well is that we're very transparent in our financial condition of the city and putting that information out to our citizens. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Okay, that includes item number 1. Going on to item number 2, there are no proclamations and presentations tonight. Moving on to item number 3, which is citizens input. Pursuant to Section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code, any member of the public has the opportunity to address the City Council concerning any matter of public business or any posted agenda item. We cannot deliberate or discuss any item presented. We, as a council, do have the opportunity to put limits and rules in place in terms of citizen comments, and we have imposed a 2-minute limit on that. So in order to do that, you need to give me a card, which I do have. We have one individual who would like to speak to the council tonight. It is Mr. Crusetto. And again, there's a 2-minute time limit. So if you please state your name and address for us. Thank you.
Good evening, council member. My name is Dario Crosetto. I live in 900 Hideaway Place, DeSoto. I would like to respectfully give an update to the city council member and the citizens of Duncanville about the Sister City program, which is not promoting peace through the dialogue and mutual respect, but is instead suppressing it and deceiving the public just to take a free vacation at the expenses of taxpayers. The group of people from my hometown, Monasterolo di Savigliano in Italy, who came here in October 2018, deceived everyone, calling themselves a delegation from Monasterolo to take free meals, entertainment, and receiving honors that will give them power in Italy to ask for a charitable donation and government funding was not a delegation from Monasterolo. An official document, and here is a document that I am going to give it to you, the official one from the government, issued by the city of Monasterolo on September 5, 2019, stated there was no list of members of the delegation from Monasterolo to Duncanville. Several people of the group were not from Monasterolo, were from Saluzzo, Ruffia, Savigliano. Because I value freedom of speech and mutual respect, before distributing flyers to protect citizens from being deceived, I respectfully submitted to Duncanville Chief of Police, to the council member, Don Burnett, and the director of the library, and the president and director of the Museum of International Culture, asking if they would identify any illegitimate or any information that was not supported by facts. No one presented any remarks of untruthful or unsupported information in my flyer. I then distributed the flyer at Christmas parade, where people took thousands of pictures of my large poster. Council member Don Burnett placed my folder with all this information on the shelf of the library for the people to be informed. I am waiting for the email from the Museum of International Culture about their reason to let me inform their visitor interested in culture, the event related to international culture. So this is the official document that is a statement that it was not a delegation from Italy. So it's from the government. Thanks. I translated. It's in Italian, but I translated to Don Burnett, and he can relate it to you. I'm sure that you have some people who can translate it, but I wanted to give you the original.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, our consent agenda. Wanted to make 2 comments here. The minutes of the December 3rd regular city council meeting have been amended as noted. And in our briefing session, the council has moved item 5A, items for individual consideration, to the consent agenda.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as with the addendum as read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the amended minutes of the December 3rd regular city council meeting. Please vote. Okay, we're going to do the whole consent agenda then. Read the consent agenda as we've amended it then, please, City Secretary.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the December 3rd City Council special meeting and the December 3rd City Council regular meeting. Item 4B, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of fuel products from Martin Eagle Oil Company, Inc. through Tarrant County Contract Number 2018-057 for the unit price discounts bid with an estimated expenditure of $195,000. Item 5A, consider an ordinance amending Chapter 10 Garbage and Trash by amending various sections to reflect changes consistent with the new solid waste contract.
Mr. Cooks.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes with the corrections.
As amended?
As amended, thank you.
All right, and I'll second that.
And the consent agenda in full. We have a second, we have a motion, is there a second?
Yes.
I second.
We have, okay, all in favor, please vote. Or all present, I should say, please vote. Thank you. Item is passed. That takes us to staff and board reports. Item number 6. A, receive the annual investment report as of September 30th, 2019. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Moving right into the annual investment report, we started the year with $32.5 million. We had purchases or additions to that of $68 million. The primary component of that was the $21.6 million that we received from the bond sale. And then we had maturities or uses of $39.3 million. That left us with an ending balance at September 30th, 2019 of $61.2 million in our investments. Breaking down the investments by type, you can see that the money market funds were about 37%, Logic, which is an investment pool, at 19%, and then our CD investments were at 44%. If we look at that, I'm sorry. If we look at the investments by maturity, our 30 to 90 day range, well, starting out at under 30 days, 34.2 million, 30 to 90 at 6 million, 90 to 180 days at 8 million, and then 180 days to a year at 7 million, and then between 1 and 2 years, we have 6 million invested. Our portfolio position by month, you can see how the distribution between Logic, which again is a government pool, and then Southside money market, Next Bank money market. Tex pool is also a government pool that's very similar to Logic. It tends to trail behind in rates, and we keep a very marginal amount invested there just to keep that account open. But typically the rates don't justify putting any additional monies there, and then our CD investments. And so you can go down through the months and see that huge jump in March when we received our proceeds from our bonds. And then this is my favorite graph. This shows three benchmark yields across the year, and then it charts out the city of Duncanville yield. So if you look at the red line, that charts out the 90-day Treasury bill yield, and then the green line charts out the yield purely for the Logic investment pool, and then Tex pool is the purple line, and you can see there's quite a bit of difference between Logic and Tex pool, hence very little investment in Tex pool. And then we calculate the city of Duncanville, we calculate our yield, and so you can see that for the most part, except for 1 month, our yield was at or above the highest on that chart, which would be the Logic yield. And then if we track our money and our allocation of interest based on where cash is, and so this chart just simply shows what the interest revenue is by the different funds. The general fund, we had a little over $500,000 in interest earned. Utility fund, $206,000, and then the other small funds, and then our capital replacement our capital replacement fund at $36,000 on the next chart, and all the other smaller funds. Capital projects construction, that is our bond fund, Fund 26, and so $317,000 of that we invested there. And I wanted to talk just real briefly about how we structured the bond money when it came in. Public Works and Park Department had put together a timeline of when they thought they were going to need the money and when they think the projects are going to be built. And so I tried to strategically invest the money so that it would be maturing in the investments that were coinciding with the building of those projects. And of course, you can't get the timing perfect, but you get it very close. And so we put some of the money into Logic, but the most of the money from the bond funds we put in a money market account, and then we went out for bids on CDs, took the highest yields that we could get based on that bid out for those investments. And so we have those spread out over time, and they will start coming due. And when they come due, if the projects are not ready to build, then we'll look at a revision of that timeline and try to determine what the most appropriate timing is to invest that money. I always have the Logic pool to go to. The expectation is that interest rates will continue to decline. We've seen some decline since early fall in our interest rates. And so it's expected that will continue to decline through the first quarter of next year. So with that, I'd like to entertain any questions.
Mr. Cooks.
Just a quick question, Richard, and great report, and thank you for having the funds match back up to the project. I know that's just a smart move on your end, for sure. When you talked about the CD rates, the rates you said were competitive. What are they, by the way?
Well, let me look. I didn't put that on the chart here. You can look on. You can really look at page 5 of the investment report, the full investment report, and I did not put that that chart in here, but for instance, we did a November CD at 2.86%. We did another one at 2.78% in January. 2.66% in March, 2.68 in March. We got into July, rates were beginning to taper off. We did one at 2.15, another one at 2.32 in June, 2.73 back in March, and a 2.75 in March, and a 2.8 in March. And I just was looking at the Logic return, which usually isn't too terribly far off of what CD rates are. It's about 1.8% currently in the pool.
And the revenue, the interest revenue from that, where does it really go? Does it go back to the general fund, or does it stay in that particular?
That were the charts that I was showing up here. If you go back, the interest is allocated based on the cash balance in the funds, and so everything is allocated and distributed to all the funds that I have up here.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Quick question. I know there are laws that govern how much we can make in terms of our investments. I noticed that our yields are below 3%. Is 3% the cap? Do we need to stay below that?
There's no cap or no limit. We are, however, relegated to Public Funds Investment Act, which typically limits anything that carries any degree of risk, because we are dealing with public funds. And if for historical purposes, the Public Funds Investment Act came from the complete and utter failure from an investment standpoint that happened out in Orange County, California back in the late 70s. And they lost a tremendous amount of principal because they were making risky investments. And so they passed the Public Funds Investment Act, and it essentially limits you. I have not ventured out beyond CDs. CDs are giving higher yield rates, and the pools have been giving higher yield rates during my tenure here beyond any other investment that would qualify for public funds investment. And so the stock market is pretty well taboo. Mutual funds are pretty much taboo because you have principal at risk when you invest in those. And so because you are dealing with public funds, your yields typically are going to be on the lower end of the spectrum.
Okay.
But we still seek to maximize the best yield we can find.
Yes, I get it now. So it's zero risk, and money markets and CDs, as you said, the principal is protected, it can't be
Correct.
hurt. We may not make a whole lot, but the principal is always going to be intact.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Item 6B, receive the Economic Development Department Quarterly Report. Ms. James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm excited this evening to be able to present to you our Economic Development Quarterly Report that kind of ends the year. So first of all, as you know, we always like to go over our city capstones and the goals and where we stand with those. Objective 1.16 is implement a traffic control box art program. And as you all know, that was completed. The 5 traffic boxes that were identified have been finished, and that was a joint project with the, specifically with Timothy and with the Parks Department and Economic Development. Objective 2.05, explore opportunities to acquire key properties for sale or in foreclosure. That is ongoing. Staff continues to look for opportunities within the community, and as I'll mention now, we'll cover it a little bit later, but we continue to work towards being able to market the Shamyville property. We are working with our attorneys in terms of there are some requirements that we have to meet, and so we want to make sure that we meet those, and hopefully just after the first of the year we'll be able to start marketing that. 2.07, increase, improve marketing and branding. This is ongoing. As I had mentioned the last time I gave my quarterly report, that we were working on a marketing plan for 2020, and it isn't aligned with the DCEDC board CEP. And as you all remember, CEP stands for our Community Enhancement Program. That's the goals of the EDC board, or otherwise known as your strategic plan. 2.09, the retaining wall art initiative, and again, the first wall that was identified has been completed. Obviously, this can be an ongoing project if that's something that council wishes to pursue in the future. This was on the corner of Cockrell Hill and Daniel Dell Road, and a number of council members came out and participated, and a number of residents did as well, and it was a great project for the entire community. So the Duncanville Design Studio was really the spearheader of that project along with the city, so it was a great joint project. Just giving you a business retention expansion efforts update. We did have engagement with 20 existing businesses. As you all know, we provide them everything from assistance to looking for possibly a new location, marketing ideas, marketing opportunities, business opportunities, referrals, as well as any other type of statistical information that we can provide to them to help them ensure their success. Property owners and property managers, we did work with 8 different property owners. This included everything from individual small businesses to shopping center owners or managers. The business broker and development engagement update, again, I want to point out, and I didn't do that before, but this time frame is from September to December. In terms of engagement that we had from developers and brokers, we did have 16. That number is slightly lower than it was last quarter. As you know, the prior quarter we did have some events that we did attend, and so that's why this number is slightly lower. Retailers 2, restaurants 9, manufacturing 4, and as you all know, we do get those leads from the state as well as the Dallas Chamber of Commerce. Unfortunately, the most of those leads still continue to look for large pieces of property as well as 50,000 plus size buildings. So we haven't been able to put in a pitch for those yet. And then 3 entertainment venues. Continuing on with our market update, for that time period, we had 122,532 basic square feet of commercial space that was leased or built. This is very consistent with the prior quarter. There were 58 new businesses. Just to highlight a couple of those, 4 new restaurants and 10 new retail stores. In addition, during that time period, the Hampton Inn and Suites finally opened, so we're happy about that. And just kind of recap and remind everybody, that was a $10 million project, and there was support from the Economic Development Corporation of $45,000, and then also there was support from the City Council through the HOT funds that will be realized in based on future performance of $245,000. And so they'll have an ability to recoup that incentive here in the prior years once they perform at the level that was specified. Additional activities, the DCEDC board members and staff did attend the 2019 TEDC sales tax workshop and legislation, sales tax and legislation workshop, I apologize. Board members also elected Steve Dial or re-elected Steve Dial as well as Derwin Broughton as president and vice president. In addition, ED staff has been very involved with coordinating the acquisition of the property for the new fire station, as well as working with the consultant to complete the land impact analysis for the former Toyota property, which will be discussed at a former meeting with the EDC and City Council. In addition, as I mentioned earlier about working with Shamyville to try to move that forward. The DCEDC board did present Cox Farms with a $22,975 incentive grant that helped with the dry stack fire hydrants, which enabled them to utilize the greenhouses that were otherwise not being able to be used by any other source. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Yeah, are we still on target for Papa's to be open in January?
They pushed it to February.
To February, okay.
Yes, sir. And also, real quickly, I would like to mention, just for the general public, there has been some questions about Bell's and what's happening with them. Bell's is going to Gordman's. This is something that's happening, that they're transitioning a number of Bell's stores. It's not just Duncanville. DeSoto's is going through it. Corsicana's is going through it. And unfortunately, it's just an off-brand of a Bell's. But the good news, though, is that space will not be vacant and that it will still be a retail opportunity for people to purchase locally and hopefully continue to shop local.
Any updates on the other facility, Maine and Wheatland Starbucks?
They're in the process of renovation still. It's moving forward, obviously, and then also the project on Cedar Ridge that you all supported as well. They currently are still looking for tenants for that space. They're going to redo some signage to try to attract more attention to it, but they continue to reach out to possible tenants as well.
Okay, thank you.
Something anecdotally, I saw in the Dallas Business Journal last week that Mayor Johnson of the city of Dallas is looking to see if the city of Dallas needs to have a corporate economic development corporation. I did not know they didn't. I thought that they were similar to what we had, but apparently not. They just have an economic development office. And he's launched a study to find out about actually creating an economic development corporation subservient to the city council, which I thought was interesting. I guess the question is, do we offer any help, or do we wait for them to come to us, or could we make an effort to reach out and touch Mayor Johnson, myself, or Mr. Hugman and Mr. Broadnax to say that we have some experience, share our stuff? I don't know, but I thought it was interesting.
That's always a possibility. I do have a business relationship with some of the individuals in the Economic Development Department, so that would be something that we could reach out to them as well. That's interesting that they're creating one, because when we go to our legislative workshops, like what I spoke about earlier, that's one of the things that we heard again this year, is that there's a lot of Type A's that are actually going away because they're being rolled into Type B's. In addition, with the property caps taking place, a lot of the rebates that councils used to be able to provide, there are cities that are kind of pulling back on that, and so they're not really sure how that'll impact corporations in the future either. So that's interesting that they're moving forward with that.
I just mentioned as information how y'all want to approach that.
Does Dallas have a Type A now? Type A corporation?
No.
They don't even have anything.
They have no corporation.
But they-
From what the Dallas Business
But
Bureau
their
is
sales
reporting.
tax is also dedicated to DART too.
That's
So I
correct.
don't know
That's
that
it.
they
Yeah.
have the sales tax capacity to do an EDC.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be part of
So-
their study.
Well, hopefully we'll wait till they come to us if they need help versus us going to them, but we're good partners, but still.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That takes us to our end of our agenda. We are officially adjourned at 7:36. Thank you.